What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Playmakers Corner podcast. I am your host for today, Simon Villanos, aka Coach V, and this is episode 397, being recorded on September 2nd and 3rd here. I think I'm going to record on both days, and I'm here to go ahead and bring you your 2024 Colorado High School Girls Flag Football Week 2 recap here. A lot of great games went down this last week from August 28th to September 2nd here. I mean, no games on the 2nd, but that's kind of the window that we will be working with from here on out, from Wednesday to Monday, and then we'll go ahead and include Tuesdays on the following weeks here moving forward. So we'll go from Tuesday to Tuesday after this week. But a lot of great stuff to talk about here. Went to a couple great games live here, and then a very good set of games hosted at Vanguard High School on the 31st there. So I'll talk about takeaways from that one. Didn't do too many recaps there. Did one Tik Tok for that. Make sure you check that out at Playmakers Corner. But that's pretty much it. Just wanted to take a look at a lot of teams that were going to be there. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and hop into it here. We got a lot to talk about this episode. All right, so here we go. Let's go ahead and talk about Cherry Creek hosting Chatfield here on Wednesday, August 28th. Cherry Creek, I believe this was their second game here. They lost their first one to a tough Mountain Vista team. Chatfield currently undefeated, winning a couple games the Saturday before and heading into their first top 10 matchup. I will say this, at the time Cherry Creek was ranked at 5, Chatfield tied for 3rd, so a big time matchup coming up in this one. And so let's go ahead and get it started. Cherry Creek starts on offense here. It looks like number 20, that would be Ania Chambers, the senior quarterback for Cherry Creek, would get the start, and she would go ahead and find number 9, Campbell Metcalf, over the middle to make it 2nd and 1 on a gain of about 5. Then on 2nd down, Chambers goes ahead and rolls out left here and finds number 19, that's Jalen Nelson, for a pretty solid gain to make it 1st and 5 near midfield. Then there's an offsides called on the defense, so now it's 1st and 20, just a bit past midfield here. And so past midfield, 1st down, Chambers throws the drag route left to Sophia Ball here to make it 2nd and 15 on the 5-yard gain. On 2nd down, Chambers would then roll left and find number 9 once more, Campbell Metcalf, who would go ahead and find a soft spot in the zone of this defense to go ahead and make it 1st down in the red zone. I want to say 1st and 17. As Cherry Creek is rolling, and on 1st down, Chambers throws it, but it's incomplete. On 2nd down, she checks it down to number 10, Ashley Sands, but Chatfield plays just really good defense here and stops it for no gain. So now that brings up 3rd down here, and on 3rd, Chambers rolls left and throws it up the seam to Ashley Sands this time, who is wide open just past the defense and runs it in, making it 6-0. On the PAT, she would throw it to Sophia Ball on the slant. That would make it 7-0 at 7:54 left here in the first quarter. Cherry Creek taking the lead. Now Chatfield, they go ahead and start off, but this drive doesn't go quite great. On 1st down, there's pressure that forces an incompletion here. On 2nd down here, it looks like number 12 is in that quarterback, Alexis McClellan. She goes ahead, shifts left, and launches one deep, but there's nobody there, so it's incomplete and 3rd down. And then on 3rd, McClellan gets a snap, checks it down to Jaden Lodice, the senior utility player, who is stopped short here. And so just like that, Chatfield decides to punt it, going 3 and out with 6:37 left. Now Cherry Creek, they take over on the 35 with the 1st and 15. I think this is just before midfield here, and Chambers goes over the middle on this throw, but it bounces out of the intended receiver's hands and very conveniently into the hands of Sophia Ball right behind her, and that goes for a nice 8-yard gain. On 2nd down, though, the pressure from Chatfield will get there, and it's thrown away, so that's incomplete. They are actually past midfield, just barely here, I should say here. And so that brings up third down here, and on third down, Chambers gets a snap and throws a nice corner route left to number 6. That is the senior Molly Durigi here, who goes ahead and brings in a pretty physical catch to make it 1st and 10 in the red zone. Just a great play by number 6 Durigi to extend a drive that seemed to be going Chatfield's way here, and also put Cherry Creek in the red zone at that. And so following that great play, it's 1st down here, and Chambers gets a snap, and she just scrambles left, avoiding the defense, and walks it into the end zone to make it 13-0. Now Caitlin Dennis would go ahead and sack her right after that on the PAT, so it would stay at 13-0 Cherry Creek with 3:49 left. Now Chatfield, they take over, and here's what happens. It's a direct snap here to number 3, Jaden Lodice, who goes left and makes it a 1st and 19, getting a 1st down. On play 1, that is. Following that, they go ahead and do the same thing, direct snap to Lodice, who then throws it to Melanie Archuleta, aka Ducky here, who makes it 2nd and 15. On 2nd down, they do it again, a direct snap to Lodice here, who's not under center, by the way. She's just a little bit off to the left, at least from what I'm seeing. And on this play here, Lodice, instead of passing in, she scrambles and reaches out, gets about 5 yards here. On 3rd and 10, they snap it to Lodice, who then passes it to number 12, Alexis McClellan, who tries to get something but goes for only a couple yards here, which is short of the 1st down. So now it's 4th and 4 here, and Chatfield decides to go for it here. And on 4th down, they throw the drag route to Ducky Archuleta, but she is stopped short, and so that's a turnover on downs, and Cherry Creek takes over with a chance to go up 3 scores with about a minute 25 left, 1st and 18. On 1st down, the pressure from Chatfield gets there, so it's incomplete once more. On 2nd down here, Lauren Scott gets a really nice pass breakup, forcing this one incomplete. On 3rd down, or I guess before the 3rd down play, there's a snap infraction on Creek, so now it's 3rd and 23. And then on 3rd down, actually, they throw the drag route here to Molly Durigi, but she is stopped thanks to a nice diving pull by Ducky Archuleta, making it 4th and 15 at least here. And so right before the 2nd quarter, Creek is forced to punt it, and so Chatfield takes over with the 1st and 6 to start the 2nd quarter. Alright, so here we go, start of the 2nd quarter. Chatfield looking to get on the board before this one gets out of hand here. They go ahead and snap it to McClellan, but Brooklyn Feeder here, the senior, gets a nice sack for Cherry Creek, so she then makes it 2nd and 10 at least there. On 2nd down, McClellan then throws the check down to Ducky Archuleta, who then tries to pitch it, but they call her down. It was pretty close play here, I'm not going to lie. And so now it's 3rd and 7. And on 3rd down, McClellan once more gets the snap, throws the slant to Lodice, but she is stopped short. And so Chatfield decides to punt it, going 3 and out again. And so here we go, Cherry Creek takes over with 10:16 left. Number 10, Ashley Sands with a nice return that gets them just past midfield. It's 1st and 11. And on 1st down here, Chambers tries to throw it to her check down, but Ducky Archuleta jumps this route and intercepts this one, giving Chatfield the ball back. Very much needed past midfield with a 9:53 left here in the 2nd quarter. So here we go, 1st and 18 for Chatfield. They go ahead and direct snap it to Lodice, who then passes it to McClellan. That goes for no gain, unfortunately. On 2nd down, they do the same thing, snap it to Lodice, but this time she scrambles, gets a couple yards here, some much needed yards, so now it's 3rd and 5. Following that, McClellan gets a snap. She throws a slant to Archuleta, Ducky that is, who jukes and makes a huge amount of people miss here. Jukes a couple of times and gets a pretty big gain. So now it's 1st and 4 in the red zone off of the big time play from Ducky Archuleta here. On 1st down, though, there's a false start, so now it's 1st and 9. And then on the actual 1st down play, McClellan gets a snap, throws it into the end zone, trying to get a shot here, but it's incomplete. On 2nd down, she just checks it down to Ducky Archuleta and then pitches it, but it goes for no gain here. And on top of that, I believe there's an illegal contact penalty, so now it's 2nd and 4. On 2nd and 4, McClellan, she gets the snap once more on 2nd down and goes left, trying to scramble, but is stopped short. But once more, there's a penalty, so now it's 2nd and 2 here. Obviously, that one being on Creek. And on 2nd and 2, they call an end around left to Caitlin Dennis, who beats the Creek defenders to the corner and makes it 13-6, getting Chatfield on the board with 4:42 left. PAT would be no good as Cherry Creek takes over and Chatfield gets on the board. Now Creek, they take over looking to respond, but on 1st down, number 21, Ella Wood, will get a pretty big time sack here to make it 2nd and 15. Then on 2nd down, Chambers just makes a bad throw under pressure, and it is picked off by number 6 of Chatfield here. And weirdly enough, on the varsity roster, there is no number 6, so I don't know who that was, but it was by number 6 in that one, and that was a big time play because that actually sets up Chatfield with a 1st down in the red zone. 1st and 10 here, and on 1st down, McClellan, she gets a snap, throws the drag left here to Ducky. She gets a couple of yards, about 6, so now it's 2nd and 4. Then on 2nd down, she checks it down to Lodice. That goes for a slight loss here, so now it's 3rd and 5. And then on 3rd and 5, McClellan throws it to Lodice again, this time on the drag, who's stopped short, only gets about 2 yards there. And then on 4th down and 3, Chatfield looking to go for it here to potentially cut into this lead. They call an end around to Caitlin Dennis once more, but she is stopped short, this time by number 16, Ada Kleck, who goes ahead and forces a turnover on downs. And so Creek takes over with the 1st and 50 here, but they're on the 2-yard line, so a little dangerous. It's 1st and 18. On 1st down, it's a drop. On 2nd down, the pressure gets there, and they almost get an interception, another one, but that one's dropped, so it's incomplete. So now it's 3rd down, backed up against their own end zone here. Creek does call a timeout at 1:41 to talk about it, though. And I don't know what happened, but I think there was a miscommunication because Creek, they would go ahead and snap the ball, and then the quarterback, I think, would pitch it to one of the backs next to her, and this was just not the right decision here, as Kenna Archuleta, the freshman, would go ahead and easily pull that flag for a safety. So now Chatfield cuts into that lead, making it 13-8, plus they get the ball back. And so here's what happens here. On 1st down, it's incomplete, but there's also illegal contact on the defense, so now it's 1st and 10 here. And then on 1st down and 10, Lodice will get the snap here and check it down to Ducky Archuleta for about 3 yards. Then on 2nd down here, it's a direct snap to Lodice, who scrambles for about 2 more. So now it's 3rd and 5 here. And Chatfield, before they run a play on 3rd down, call a timeout with 47 seconds left. I believe they're first of the half here. Out of the timeout here, it's a rollout left by McClellan, but she is sacked by number 3, Olivia Teresa Hundrick here, the junior, who goes ahead and puts Cherry Creek in a pretty nice spot here. 4th and 11 for Chatfield. And so Chatfield takes their 2nd timeout here with 36 seconds left to talk about it. But at the end, they decide to punt it, but the punt is dropped on the snap. So now it's 1st and 2 past midfield with about 33 seconds left. And so Creek here on a 1st and 2 past midfield on the edge of the red zone here. Chambers completes a quick throw to number 6, Molly Durigi, who's stopped for a short gain, but enough to put them in the red zone. So now it's 1st and 19. On 1st down, Chambers, she scrambles left, slips a tackle before making it a more manageable 2nd and 10 on the 9-yard rush. And after this play, Cherry Creek would call their 2nd timeout with 15 seconds left here, trying to preserve some time and talk about it. Out of the timeout here, Chambers gets a snap, eventually decides to run right up the middle, spinning out of some tackles, but unfortunately a holding penalty would be called on the defense. So now not only do they get those yards, but it's 2nd down and half the distance to the goal line, so 2nd and 3. And on 2nd and 3, Chambers gets a snap, looks off the defense, and finds number 6, Molly Durigi, to her right to make it 19-8. On the PAT, Chambers gets the snap and slips a diving flagpole here before walking it in left to make it 20-5 with 5 seconds left in this one. Chatfield would basically just run out the rest of the clock here, but a crazy swing here, going from only being behind 13-8 to now being down 20-8 in the span of less than 2 minutes for Chatfield, as Creek has to feel good about that. And so here we go. Let's go into the third quarter. Chatfield trailing 20-8 to start the third quarter. They're on offense. To start, it's a direct snap to Lodice, who buys a lot of time before eventually finding Taryn Binion, who gets open and gets a pretty big gain here. So now it's 1st and 15. Following that, it's a scramble right by McClellan. She maybe gets 1 yard, so now it's 2nd down and 14. But they would call offsides on the defense before running a 2nd down play. So now it's 2nd and 9 here. And on this 2nd down play, they go ahead and toss it left to Caitlin Dennis, who makes a nice gain here, about 3 yards. So now it's 3rd and 6. But on 3rd down, they check it down to Dennis again. This time a pass here, but she is stopped short. 4th and inches here. And so here we go. Chatfield deciding to go for it near midfield. They check it down to number 15, Jenna Lee, but she is stopped short, they rule. So that's a tough one. A turnover on downs as Creek takes over past midfield, just barely, like 2 yards. And it's 1st and 18 with 7:56 left. And here we go. Creek looking for a knockout punch here. Chambers throws the out to Molly Durigi, who makes it 2nd and 4. Following that, Chambers checks it down here, and Ducky Archuleta gets a nice diving pull, stopping that from being more, as now it's 1st and 19 in the red zone here. On 1st down, Chambers gets a snap, but the pressure from Chatfield is there and forces an incompletion, but they call roughing the passer as they got a little bit too close here. So now it's 1st and 9 for Creek in the red zone. 1st down here, Chambers, she decides to scramble right, only gets about 4 yards, setting up 2nd and 5. And then on 2nd and 5, Chambers evades the rush and finds number 14 here, Sophia Ball, over the middle to make it 26-8. A nice throw here and a nice catch to go ahead and put them up a couple scores, 3 scores, as the PAT would be overthrown here. And that would pretty much wrap up this game. Early on in the third quarter, it would be 5-13 when Chatfield will get it back, but not much going for them as this offense just continued to struggle. Caitlin Schatz here will get an interception to go ahead and take away this next Chatfield drive. Creek would try to get something going, but this defense for Chatfield played well. Almost a couple picks here, a drop, but a big sack by number 20, Kendall Holenkamp, would go ahead and end that drive there, and it will end up being a turnover on downs. Chatfield would get it back with 2:29 left here, and I think the key thing here is that they weren't down by too much, but they do need a score here. They would throw it deep, but this pass would be dropped here. It would have been a touchdown as she was wide open. So that's tough here, and that basically brings them to the fourth quarter where it's 3rd and 11, but Chatfield would end up with another tough drop, forcing a turnover on downs. Cherry Creek, they would get the ball here, but nothing would happen. They would end up punting it back to Chatfield with 7:39 left. Chatfield, it's kind of the same thing, not much really going on here. They would go for it on 4th and 1, but it would be an incomplete pass, just not their day. So that's a turnover on downs. Creek, they would go ahead and get the ball with 6:40 left here, and number 20, Nia Chambers, would find Sophia Ball on the drag route, who would just outrun the defense and deliver the official dagger as they take the 33-8 lead. At the minute 46-second mark for Chatfield, Ducky would score a touchdown, making it 33-14. PAT, I guess technically making it 33-15, but this one would very much be over here. Sorry, 33-16. I'm mistaken there. But this one would still be very much over as Cherry Creek takes down number 3 Chatfield 33-16 in a big time win for them. Now, talking about this game, this was the first time watching Cherry Creek and Chatfield here. Let me start with Chatfield. Their defense is good. I think they did a lot to give this offense a lot of chances, but ultimately the field positioning really hurt them. The lack of great field positioning, partially because of the lack of production from the offense, really hurt them, as this defense played pretty well, showed Cherry Creek a lot of different looks here, but at the end of the day, Creek's defense played well and provided them with a lot of opportunities on offense, and I mean, just put Chatfield in a pretty tough hole that made the play calling almost, pretty limited moving forward, as you know that they have to score here and get some big chunk plays to get back into it. Now, Chatfield's offense honestly just struggled in this one. I mean, they couldn't get any really big splash plays. They had one big splash play on offense, and then the other one was a drop pass, which was just very unfortunate there. And, I mean, they were going for these short looks here, hoping to get this Cherry Creek defense out of line, but it just wasn't working. And so we'll see if they adjust to moving forward, how this offense gets better moving forward, but just not the greatest showing. But I would also say this Cherry Creek defense came to play and did a good job removing any big time shots down the field here and just forcing Chatfield to throw it short and then making great flag pulls. So a lot of kudos to Cherry Creek in this one. They played well. Chatfield, it wasn't completely horrible, like I said, but the offense definitely needs to get better moving forward for them to continue to win against high quality opponents and fellow contenders, being honest there. So there you go. But that is the recap of Cherry Creek versus Chatfield. Now, the other game I went to was Cherry Creek again, this time them traveling to the NAC to go play Ralston Valley. Ralston Valley ranked at number 2 before this week of games, while Cherry Creek, like I said, at number 5. I will say this. I unfortunately was not able to catch the entire first quarter. I actually got there with 2:19 left. Creek was up 6-0 over Ralston with a 2:19 left in the first quarter. I believe that touchdown that happened for Creek was just a long touchdown play where the receiver got past the safety and then the PAT was no good there. Now, as I was walking down here, I saw Zoe Zoll throw a very unfortunate pick 6 here. Couldn't quite see who snagged it for Creek, but she would return it to the house to make it 12-0 with 1:45 left in the first. PAT over the middle would be good from Chambers to Sophia Ball to make it 13-0. And then I was down on the field for the rest of this game. And so here we go. Ralston down 13-0 early, looking to make something happen. After a quick check down, they would run a reverse left to number 44, the freshman Shelby Calismo, who would get the first down, but flag guarding would push them back, now making it third down here. And on third down, Zoll throws the out route to number 20, Carly No, it looks like, who would go ahead and make it 4th and 1, close to the first down. Now, it wouldn't matter as Zoll would go ahead and throw it to number 3, the senior Carmen Johnson, and their lead receiver in the flat, who would go get the first down, making it 1st and 19. And then I believe at some point here, the quarter ended and then it became the second quarter, top of the second quarter, so they switched spots here. I don't know why I didn't write it down here, but on 1st and 19 here, Zoll gets the snap and throws it, but this route is jumped by number 5 of Cherry Creek. That is Caitlin Schatz, I should say, who would go ahead and jump this one and bring it to the house as well to put them up 19-0 here. Now a sack by number 33 of Ralston Valley. I believe that would be Savi Dortic, the sophomore, would make it, would keep this one at 19-0 here, as Ralston Valley now finds themselves in a 3-score deficit. And so here we go, Ralston Valley trying to get something going. It starts out relatively okay. Zoe Zoll would scramble right, but an illegal contact on Creek would make it about 1st and 15-ish here. Fast forward a couple plays, a nice end around left for number 14, that's Ashlyn Callahan, the junior, would get a good gain setting up 3rd and 4. On 3rd and 4, they would go ahead and fake the reverse left to Callahan here before, I want to say, handing it off to someone else. I think Calismo, but I could be mistaken here. Either way, she would be short, so it's 4th and 1. They throw the quick check down to the center. Now it's first down past midfield. I want to say 1st and 20. Following this, Zoll would scramble right, but there would be a penalty. So now it's 1st and, it has to be longer here. I want to say 1st and 10. I want to say. But it would not matter as Zoll throws another interception, this time picked off by Molly Durigi here, who looks like she returns it to the house here. Ref said she stepped out of bounds. I don't know about that one. It looked like she was in. But either way, they stop her short. So there you go. Cherry Creek just dominating right now here. Creek would try to get a score here, but eventually this drive would end with an interception by number 14, Ashlyn Callahan. He returns it for a pretty good amount of yards. And so here we go. Ralston Valley still down 19-0, but it's a 1st and 17 past midfield with 2:20. A great opportunity to potentially score here. They run a sweep left to Calismo, who makes it 2nd and 7 on the 10-yard gain. But then number 10 of Cherry Creek, that would be Ashley Sands, who would get a huge sack here to now make it 3rd and at least 10 plus yards here. And it doesn't get better, as there would be another sack on 3rd down, this time by Janae Brown, continuing to push them back. And at this point, Ralston Valley calls a timeout at 58.7 seconds. It's 4th and 17. On this 4th down play, they decide to dial up a deep shot, but no one gets open, or at least Zoe Zoll just takes too long to throw this one, as she does eventually get sacked by Sands here. She does get the ball out of her hands trying to throw it, but it would have been picked and probably returned if she didn't get sacked here. And so Creek, they take over on the first play here. They go ahead and snap it to Chambers, who then throws it to number 4, Addie Beck, who played quarterback for them last year, who then launches it deep, but this one once more is just well covered, and once more intercepted by Ashlyn Callahan here. And so Ralston Valley does get a chance here. It starts out with a nice play down the left sideline to Carmen Johnson, who would get a 1st down in the red zone, 1st and 20, with about 30 seconds left, I want to say. And so here we go, 1st down in the red zone, 30 seconds left. They go ahead and roll out Zoll, who throws it to Calismo for a couple yards. Ralston Valley calls another timeout here with 23.5 seconds. It's 2nd and 15 when we come back. And on 2nd and 15, they run an end around here to Callahan, who gets a solid gain of about, I want to say, 9 yards here, making it 3rd and 6 with about 8 seconds left here. And then they go ahead and snap the ball, but unfortunately this play would end with another huge sack by Janae Brown to end the half, as Cherry Creek maintains their 19-0 lead. Ralston Valley just not quite getting it together, and it would not be great, as to start the 3rd quarter, Ralston does get the ball here, but some really good flag pulls, including one stop for a loss against number 44 Calismo, pulled by number 10 Ashley Sands, would force a 3 and out. Creek, they would get going here, and they would actually get into the red zone here, it looks like. And here's what would go down. Let's actually fast forward to 3rd and 5 here. Chambers gets the snap, tries to throw it to the back of the end zone, but this one is picked off by Carmen Johnson. Kind of an inaccurate throw here, and just very well covered. This was for sure going to be a turnover, and so Ralston takes over here. But the offensive struggles continue here. They would get past the midfield, but a big-time sack here by, I want to say this is number 10. That is Ashley Sands once more. Makes it 2nd and 24. On top of that, a false start pushes them back, making it 2nd and 29. And this one is just not going to work out here, as they are so far back. They would eventually take a deep shot here on 3rd and long, which was brought in by Carmen Johnson on a very great play here. That would set up 1st and 15 in the red zone. Fast forward to the 4th quarter, after an incompletion, it's 2nd down. This drive would end up ending with Molly Durigi getting another interception in the red zone to end another Ralston Valley drive. So just very unfortunate right when it looked like they were getting something going, thanks to Carmen Johnson on that deep shot there, who kind of bailed them out of a tough situation. It's an interception once more. Now, Ralston Valley will get the ball back eventually again. Creek on this drive will throw another pick this time. Really, I should say once more, it's Ashlyn Callahan making another great play here to give Ralston Valley's offense another chance as she intercepts the ball on that drive to end that Cherry Creek one. And so Ralston Valley once more takes over with the 1st and 7 here with 7:42 left in the 4th here. On first down, it's an overthrow. Second down, it's a check down to number, I want to say it's either 13, but it can't be. It's 33, I want to say. Savvy Dortick here, who goes ahead and gets a first down in the red zone. Following a first down drop, it's second down. The pressure from Creek gets there and forces an incompletion. But an illegal flag pull, it looks like, as they do pull a flag just a little bit, I want to say, late there, which is interesting. I don't know about calling that one. We'll make it 3rd and 5 here. And on 3rd and 5, Zoll gets a snap, throws it down the left sideline, and it's Carmen Johnson who toe taps this one in to make it 19-6. Ralston decides to go for a 2 here, and they throw it to the left side once more, and this time it's Ashlyn Callahan to go ahead and bring this one, making it 19-8. Cherry Creek takes over with 5:21 left here. Ralston Valley will need to stop them and score pretty quickly to go ahead and get back into this game, and that's exactly what they do. They play pretty good defense. The quick check down stopped for barely a gain. Timeout called. Then there's a dropped handoff. That's a big break. 3rd down and a loss of yards. Timeout is called after that at 5:05. I want to say by Ralston. And then outside or after that 3rd down here, after that timeout leading to the 3rd down here, Chambers gets a snap, rushes left, and is stopped short this time by number 8. I want to say, which is Emma O'Connor, who forces a 4th down. And so before Creek punts, Ralston calls their last timeout at 4:57 since they forced the 3-and-out, and then Creek punts. Now Ralston Valley, they take over here as they approach midfield. Zoll gets snapped, throws the corner to Callahan, I want to say right here, and that goes for a pretty big gain. On top of that, they tag on holding on the defense. But I guess there was an unsportsmanlike called. When the dust settles, it doesn't matter. It's first down past the midfield here. On first down, there's a tough drop. On second down, it's a check down to number 8, O'Connor here. But flag guarding is called. So now it's 3rd and long here on this 10-yard penalty. And then there's a pretty big sack by number 10, Ashley Sands of Cherry Creek, setting up 4th down and super long here. Zoll gets a snap, just kind of chucks one deep, trying to get this one to a receiver, but it is thrown out of bounds, and so that's a turnover on downs, and Cherry Creek basically just lets this clock roll here, as once more they get their 2nd straight win over a top 5 opponent, beating Ralston Valley 19-8. As you could hear, Cherry Creek really dominated this one from the get-go, going up 19-0, and just making it very difficult for Ralston Valley to do anything. It was not the greatest day from Zoe Zoll here, who did throw 4 interceptions after not throwing any interceptions last week, so that's definitely tough. And this makes it even tougher knowing that this Ralston Valley defense had 4 interceptions as well, and 4 sacks. Callahan had 3, Carmen Johnson had 1, Kalismo had 1 sack, Savvy Dortick had 2, and Georgia Jansen had 1 sack as well. So it's not like the Ralston Valley defense didn't play well, but the offense just really struggled here, even with good field positioning, to make the most out of their opportunities. So it just really looked like an off game from Zoe Zoll and company. Hopefully they'll bounce back here. On the other hand, you have Cherry Creek. This defense looked really good offensively. I mean, I think there were some very reckless throws, especially with them being up 19-0. I think there were times where they could have just took the check down, or their quarterback Chambers could have just took the check down or the safer throw, and she decided to gamble a little bit, trying to go for a definitive dagger. But Ralston Valley was there to make plays and made Cherry Creek pay. And so this one could have really went either way, in my opinion. Neither offense had a great day here. 2 of Cherry Creek's touchdowns were pick sixes. So there's that. And then their 1 touchdown was on just miscommunication on the Ralston Valley defense to start the game, it seemed like. So it kind of was what it was. I think if they played again, this one would be much closer. But Cherry Creek, I mean, this is a huge win to get their second one in a row versus a ranked opponent, versus a top 5 opponent. And so if you're them, you got to feel good. Obviously, still more to tweak and get better moving forward here, but they looked very strong in this one. For Ralston Valley, they just got to shake off a tough offensive performance and continue to play here. But I think they will also be fine, as it is still very early on into the season here. And so anything could happen, but we'll see how both teams respond after this grinded out win here, where, like I said, Cherry Creek takes care of Ralston Valley 19-8. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about the games that took place on August 31st, Saturday, at the Vanguard School in Colorado Springs. A whole bunch of games went down here, so I'm just going to kind of run through them with some quick takeaways. Gino was also there, so these are some of his takeaways, but the first game we had was Coronado versus Air Academy here. Air Academy looked very strong, a lot of really good athletes, despite not passing the ball much outside of maybe 2 or 3 times, which were both checkdowns. They beat Coronado 29-0, a very dominant showing from them, played good defense, and so you got to feel good about where they are at here. Following that, Coronado will play Colorado Springs Christian, and this was actually a pretty quiet game, I would say, for the most part, until, I want to say late in the 3rd/4th quarter, where Coronado decided to throw it quite a bit more here, and we're connecting on a lot of passes, so hopefully that continues moving forward here. I mean, I don't believe they scored. I don't think they scored here. They scored 1 touchdown before the second half here, where they just kind of went off for a pretty good game here, scoring twice on passing plays to pull away from Colorado Springs Christian here, and they were calling a lot of runs, so it was good to see them lean more on the pass. For Colorado Springs Christian, they kept it close, but the offense couldn't quite match them in that one. And then I did leave for a little bit, but Air Academy would play Colorado Springs Christian. This game was really close. Air Academy would win it 6-2. Both teams not exactly running modern offenses, which is something that I noted, but defensively, I mean, still some good athletes over there. So boom, there you go there. Moving on, we had Doherty playing Elizabeth. Doherty in their debut here in this one, which was pretty exciting here. And they would take care of Elizabeth 14-0. A lot of good athletes for Doherty. A couple players really stood out here. And actually, we have stats. So let me go ahead and list out some of these stats here. Starting on the defensive side, sophomore number 4, Isabella Marquez really stood out to me as a speedy athlete. She got 2 interceptions in this one and was big time for them. On top of that, she had a rush for 6 yards here as well on offense. And so she was big time in this game, holding off Elizabeth and getting 2 of their 3 interceptions. So absolutely love that. But just going through the stats here, number 12, Santi Keys, the junior, had 5 receptions for 46 yards. Neela Thompson had a touchdown. Alyssa Ramos had a touchdown. Neela Thompson showed some flashes throughout this game, 7 of 12 for 51 yards and a pick here. And then it looks like she also led in tackling as well for Doherty. So boom, there you go. For Elizabeth, they really struggled. 2 of 12 for 4 yards and 3 picks. Ran the ball a lot. Emma Gohl, the sophomore, 4 carries for 37. And Gwen Hackett, the senior, 4 for 24. But just couldn't get anything going here. Number 19 for them, that would be Madeline Franklin, got a pick. But not too much there. Their offense honestly struggled. But Doherty's defense is quick too, so a lot of great plays made by them. That's something I really noted there. And then Ellicott would play Elizabeth. This would be a very slow game. Elizabeth would end up winning 2-0. getting a safety that sophomore Emma Agul would get here. That would give them the edge over Ellicott, who took a little bit to figure out their offense and get going here. There were times where they were in rhythm and then they just couldn't finish some drives. So kind of a tough go for Ellicott in that one. So there you go there. Then I was not able to see Ellicott versus Doherty here. I'm not going to lie, it was super hot. But Ellicott actually beat Doherty 13-12. Like I said, that offense was clicking kind of near the end of that game here. So that was definitely big time. For Doherty, they didn't pass it as much as I thought they would. Only 9 attempts and only completed 1. Did throw 2 picks over there. Thompson at 58 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns there. While defensively, Isabella Marquez, the sophomore, went ahead and tagged on 2 more interceptions. Alyssa Ramos with another interception. And then you had Jackson Nunez, a freshman, and Santi Keys, a junior, with a sack each. As this defense gave them opportunities, but offensively they just couldn't quite get it going here, only losing by 1 to Ellicott. So there you go there. Doherty's still a very young team, so I wouldn't be panicking just yet if I were them, obviously. And then the last couple games I stayed for here and watched mostly in full. I saw Vista Ridge play Vanguard. This one was not really close at all. Vista Ridge just had so many more athletes here who made so many more plays. Vanguard's offense really struggled in this one here. I do have a couple names that I wanted to shout out for Vista Ridge. Or, well, I did, and then I realized they do not have jersey numbers listed here. And that's kind of an issue. I do know one of them is number 22 for them. That is Addison Vrana, who plays both ways. She was big time. And then I'll just list the jersey numbers. Number 3 for Vista Ridge, number 4, number 11, and number 1 all made big time plays. Hopefully they had jersey numbers so that we could cover them properly here in the future. So there you go. But, just a lot more athletes. They dominated Vanguard here. This could have been probably by a little bit more. But, a win is a win. And then following that, we had a pretty good game here between TCA and Vista Ridge. TCA would end up winning 20-0, but Vista Ridge had opportunities to, go ahead and score in this game. But TCA just stacked that lead pretty early on and made it very difficult for them. I have a couple of names that I want to shout out for TCA, but I'm actually going to wait here until this next game that I want to recap. Because like I said, this TCA Vista Ridge game was relatively close despite the score here. Vista Ridge just really struggled on offense here. Defensively, they made some nice plays though, but TCA, they did their thing. Make sure you check out the highlights that we posted on TikTok of that game. And then last but not least, we had TCA versus Vanguard. This one was not close at all. TCA dominated. I left at halftime here. I do want to shout out number 23. That is Kate Osborne, a senior athlete for them. She had 3 interceptions in the first quarter. 2 of them were pick sixes, so that's pretty tough there. The whole team really contributed to this one. Let me just go down the line and list off names that I thought played great. Number 12, their quarterback, Kelsey Peterson, only a sophomore, but she was slinging that thing, making some great plays. Did the same thing against Vista Ridge. She's going to be someone that you got to look out for. Then you also have Lillian Groth, the senior athlete for them as well, made a lot of big-time plays. You have number 32 for TCA, Reagan Harder, who is only a freshman, but might be the fastest player in all of 4A here. She made some big-time splash plays over there in both games. Like I said, 23 Kate Osborne, I already mentioned. She had so many interceptions in both games, but specifically against Vanguard, she dominated. And then I want to say it's number 36 here. It could be number 35 now that I'm looking at this roster. Lauren Pantusa, another freshman, it looks like, who played very well for them. This TCA roster is absolutely stacked. They got some young players, and I think they're going to be very dangerous moving forward. It's going to be interesting to see how their season progresses, because I do think this is a team that could go to state this year, which, I don't know. I feel like that's not that crazy to say. So, boom, there you go there. Those are my takeaways from the games that took place at Vanguard August 31st. Now let's go ahead and recap the games from around the state here. We had a couple good ones, starting with Wednesday, August 28th. We had Highlands Ranch versus Mountain Vista. This was a blowout. Mountain Vista beat them 55-0. Nothing more to say there. Also, no stats, unfortunately. Then we have Dakota Ridge versus Ponderosa, a 4A matchup here. Dakota Ridge absolutely dominating in this one. Addie Orr, 4 of 9 for 53 yards and a touchdown. A lot of rushing yards here, as Addie Orr also had 69 rushing yards. Gianna Fabrizio, sophomore, had 22 rushing yards and a touchdown. Gabby Garces with 4 for 20. And then it looks like senior number 17, Bronlyn Mirowski, had a 18-yard rushing touchdown in this one. Kate Barbick, the senior, was their lead receiver with 4 receptions for 53 yards. The lead tackler was a tie between junior Darian Lewis and sophomore Emery Bowman, their standout rusher, who Bowman also had 2 sacks in this one. Natalie Johnson had a sack. Braden had a sack. Grace Klepper had 2 interceptions. The junior there. Morawski had an interception, and Darian Lewis with 2 interceptions, as this defense really came to play against Ponderosa. Kind of as expected, though. They played very well. Now, moving on, we have Arvada West versus Pomona. This game would pretty much be done early on, as Arvada West went up 26-0 at half, add on another 7 in the third quarter to go up 33-0 in a dominant win over Pomona, who's a pretty solid squad there. Sailor Swanson, almost a perfect game, 15 of 19 for 161 yards, 3 touchdowns. Also had 73 rushing yards and 2 more touchdowns, putting her in Playmaker of the Week conversations there in that one, as she tore up this Pomona defense. Sarah Walker, 9 receptions, 141 yards, 2 touchdowns. Molly Shellpepper, 4 receptions, 64 yards and a touchdown. Santana Pena with 3 receptions for 20 in this one. On defense here, it would be the senior for them, Danica Rodriguez-Gonzalez, with 6 tackles here. Lindley McReynolds, the junior, right behind her with 5. And McReynolds, by the way, 4 sacks in this one, a great game. And then looking at the picks here, Hannah Wynn had an interception, and then Harper Tillman and Sarah Walker each had a pass deflection, as Arvada West dominates and continue to roll here moving forward. Then we had North Glen versus Aurora Central here. This was not a close game. North Glen blows them out 48-0. It looks like Ellie Taylor, the senior, is now in at quarterback here. No snaps, surprisingly, for Sydney Reese. But Taylor, 14 of 22, 126 yards, 3 touchdowns. Also had 3 carries for 30 yards. As far as receiving goes, Quepper Trinkle, 5 receptions, 76 yards, and a touchdown. Evelyn James continues her dominance. 4 receptions, 62 yards, and a touchdown. Sophomore Caitlin Fujinami, I want to say, 4 receptions, 56 yards, and a touchdown in this one. Leading them on defense was Leah James with 8. Evelyn James right behind her with 5 here. And then sacks, Maddie Kamara had 2. James had 1. Fujinami had 1. And then Fujinami had an interception as well. Darian Gordon with a pick. And it looks like, I want to say this is Vanessa Rodriguez, had an interception as well, freshman for them, as North Glen just dominated that game against Aurora Central. Moving on back to more 5A games here, we have Chaparral versus Grandview here. Remember, Chap, we went ahead and ranked them before this week at number 6, looking to potentially move up and stay undefeated, and that's what they do. They beat Grandview 18-0 here. The freshman quarterback Zoe Fink, 19 of 27, 143 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, also 10 carries for 64 yards. Sophia O'Donnell on the ground doing a lot of damage, 13 carries for 102 yards there. She also had 4 receptions for 39 yards and a receiving touchdown. Sydney Matthews, sophomore, number 50 for them, had 4 receptions for 40 yards and a touchdown. And then Jamie Baum, the senior, 3 receptions, 26 yards, and a touchdown. On defense, it would be the junior Addison Brantley who led with 6 pulls there. She also had 5 sacks in this game, just absolutely dominating For Grandview here, senior Ivy Daniel would start, and she went 14 of 22 for 104 yards. No touchdowns, no picks in this one. Had 9 carries, but looks like for negative yardage there. Tierra Goodgain, the senior, 6 receptions, 57 yards, leading this team. And then on defense, it would be Aya Awada, who had 13 tackles, but obviously not enough. And also Sadie Perry with an interception in this game. But like I said, not enough, as this offense just did not do enough to score here and get on the board, as Chap remains undefeated. Moving on, we have Mullen versus Littleton, and this was a lot closer than I thought it would be. Mullen beating Littleton 7-6 here. Steffi Thomas, the junior quarterback, with the majority of the passing attempts here, 8 of 14 for 66 yards, 2 picks. Chloe Pelster, the junior, had 2 pass attempts for 41 yards, which is interesting there. Also, by the way, Steffi Thomas with 10 carries for 82 yards and a touchdown. Chloe Pelster with 7 carries for 9. There could be maybe a little bit of quarterback controversy. We will see after this week, though. At receiving, though, Keaton Arangua Egbert, the senior, had 4 receptions for 57 yards. Riker Thomas, the senior, 2 for 42 over there. On defense, Sarah Garner, the sophomore, led with 12 pulls. It looks like Junzi Jones, the senior, had 2 sacks. And then this defense had 3 picks from Stathis, the sophomore, Sophia Cooper, the senior, and Lily Evans, the junior. As, like I said, a lot closer than I thought it would be. But Mullen beats Littleton 7-6. Then we had Cherry Creek versus Chatfield. Make sure you check out that recap. Following that, we had Mountain Range versus Aurora West College Prep Academy. This looks like to be a close one here. Mountain Range actually starting with a 13-0 lead going into the second half. And then AWCPA scoring 12 in the third and fourth quarter to make this one a close one, but unfortunately coming up short here. For AWCPA, it would be the sophomore for them, Nevaeh Flores Duran, 5 of 14, 56 yards, 1 touchdown to 2 picks. As far as rushing goes, it was Maria Gutierrez Benitez, the sophomore, with 5 carries for 54 yards and a touchdown. Sitao, excuse me if I'm saying that wrong. I'm definitely butchering that. Sai, the sophomore, had 4 carries for 45 yards. Apologize for that again. Gutierrez Benitez, the sophomore, 2 receptions for 38 yards. And then the sophomore, Horo, I want to say, or Horo Clementine, the sophomore for them, had their lone receiving touchdown. Gutierrez Benitez with 2 sacks, Sai with 2, Flores Duran with 1 pick in this one. For Mountain Range, Layla Robinson, 6 carries for 70 yards. And then receiving wise, Delilah Lucero, the junior, 6 receptions, 206 yards. Jeez. Oh, and then Layla Robinson with 1 reception for 40 yards there. On defense, the junior, Armani Sanchez Montez, had 12 tackles in this one. She also had 3 sacks as well. Alvia Malika, the sophomore, with 2 sacks. Hanson, the sophomore, with 2 interceptions. And Taylor Ruby with a pick, as Mountain Range just barely, but still getting the win, squeaks by Aurora West College Prep Academy to get this win on Wednesday. Moving back down south, we had Legend versus Douglas County, and this one just really wasn't close here. Legend beat them 25-6. I only have Douglas County stats as of right now, September 2nd. Legend, we would appreciate it if you put in stats. It would be great. But for Douglas County / Castleview, Jillian Cabral, the junior, 8 of 22 for 48 yards, 1 pick, 1 touchdown, 2 picks in this one. Also had 13 rushing yards for them. As far as receiving goes, Emma McKinney had 1 20-yard reception for a touchdown. Look at that, pretty slim pickings there. On defense, sophomore Riley Colvert had 9 tackles. She also had 2 sacks in this one. And then Faith Turnbaugh, the sophomore, and Chloe Lund, the sophomore, each with an interception. But not enough to beat Legend as they continue to roll. Then we have Columbine versus Arapahoe here. Columbine taking the early lead over Arapahoe, and then them just not being able to come back in this one. Columbine wins 21-14. Here are the stats for this one. It looks like Jordan Washington, the senior, was getting the majority of the snaps at quarterback, 17 of 29 for 85 yards. But you also had Courtney Brock, the junior, who got some snaps here, 6 of 7 for 38 yards, which is interesting. Washington with also 6 rushes for 29 yards in this one. She also had 4 receptions for 33 yards, just kind of doing everything for them as their lead receivers as far as yards go. Ansley Leavitt, the senior, with 4 for 29. Emma Hertz, the junior, 5 of 26 for a touchdown. Michaela Heineke, senior, 3 for 17 and 2 touchdowns in this one. On defense, Carly Dexter, the rusher, led with 8 tackles. Also had 3 sacks over there. Kaylin Karish, I want to say. I feel like I'm saying that wrong. I apologize. Please feel free to DM us and correct me there so I know how to say it in the future. But she had a pick. Annalie Rapay, the freshman, had a pick. Molly Hawkmuth, the senior, had a pick in this one as they kept Arapahoe at bay. For Arapahoe, Whitney Folger, the freshman, 17 of 23, 87 yards, 1 touchdown to 2 picks. Riley Kelly, the sophomore, also got snaps. Didn't do much better. 6 of 7 for 54 yards and a touchdown and a pick as well. Kelly with 37 rushing yards, though, to Folger's only 12. So that's interesting there. Taylor Bradley, the sophomore, once again led in receiving, 7 receptions for 65 yards and a touchdown. Alexa LaDuff, the junior, 8 receptions for 47. Riley Kelly, the sophomore, 5 for 16. And then it looks like Lizzie Padilla, the junior, had a receiving touchdown for them as well. On defense, it would actually be the junior here for them, Lizzie Padilla, with 10 tackles for them. No sacks for this team, though, unfortunately. Just a lot of hurries and no interceptions for Arapahoe either, as they did struggle to get back into this one. They made a quarterback change, which kind of got some things going, but by then it was too late. Columbine would close this one out 21-14, a big-time dub for them. Moving on, we have Thunder Ridge versus Rock Canyon. No stats for this one, but Thunder Ridge wins 20-6. And then last but not least, we have Heritage versus Regis here. Heritage would score in the second and fourth quarter to put this one away and win a big-time game against a top 10 opponent here to win 12-0. Let's start with Heritage. Abby Nichols kind of going off in this one with a very good game, or at least a pretty solid game. I don't know about going off, but 13 of 25, 201 yards, 1 touchdown to 2 picks, though, but did rush for 50 yards here. Elena Shinaberry, the junior, with 6 rushes for 31 yards. Moving on to receiving here, Avalon Lux Offerman continues her dominance, 5 receptions for 115 yards and a touchdown. Oh my gosh, I still haven't figured this out. Sophomore Claire Wojciechowski, 4 receptions, 59 yards, number 31 for them. Jeez, please DM us. We'd appreciate how to say that last name. I feel bad for butchering it. Then number 26, Joe Taylor, with 2 receptions for 27 yards, as this offense made some big plays. Ryan Taylor continues to dominate, 11 pulls for them as she leads the team. Also had an interception in this one. Adelaide Busek had a sack in this one. Taylor with her interception. Caroline Belair with 2 interceptions. And then the sophomore for them, that would be Finley Richards, with an interception as well, as his Heritage team played pretty well on both sides of the ball. Now for Regis Jesuit, they had opportunities, only lost by 2 scores, but just couldn't quite get it going on offense. Nala Barnes, the senior, 16 of 32, 3 interceptions. Sitzman, the junior, for them, 3 of 5 here. Delaney Sitzman, that is, for 11 yards and a pick. Alexia Toval went 2 of 2 for 6. Just nothing really going there as far as passing goes. Rushing wise, Barnes only had 16 yards. Toval 12 yards. As far as receiving goes, Caitlin Bueller, the freshman, led with 9 receptions for 45 yards. Mate Barnes with 1 reception for 31. Catherine Uri, 4 for 23, as she was a little bit subdued in this one. On defense, Riley Wells, the junior, 7 pulls here. She also had 2 sacks. Jasmine Lugo, the freshman, had 3 sacks. Catherine Uri with 2 picks. Nala Barnes with a pick, but they just could not get going on offense, and at the end of the day, that is what killed them and allowed Heritage to upset them 12-0. All right, I don't have the score for Bear Creek versus Lakewood for some reason. It was played on Thursday, August 29th. But for some reason, there's just nothing there. So that's very convenient. So just wanted to throw that out there before we move on to the Friday slate of games. All right, but moving on to the Friday slate of games, only 3 here. 2 that I did not go to. Make sure you check out Cherry Creek versus Ralston Valley if you want to hear more about that one. But to start, we have Regis Jesuit versus Valor Christian. Another part of the Holy War here. And Valor Christian wins this one 18-13. Valor would actually go up 18-0 at half, and then Regis would score 13 in the fourth, but by then it would be too late here in this one. Probably a much closer score than the game actually was, I want to say. But for Valor, let's start with their stats. Junior Faith Prinzo, 16 of 24, 148 yards and a touchdown. They also gave Anna Schouten, I want to say, a junior, some snaps here. She went 2 of 11 for 32 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick there. As far as rushing goes, Savannah Khan, 4 for 23. Fleet Meyer, the sophomore, 3 for 19. Savannah Prinzo, 1 rush for 17 yards. As far as receiving goes, Alexis Wood continues to lead, 7 receptions, 82 yards and a touchdown. Ellie Johnson, the sophomore, 3 for 31 and a touchdown. Savannah Khan, 3 for 29 and a touchdown. And then lastly, but not least, Savannah Prinzo, 2 for 29. On defense for Valor, Sadie Lee and senior, it looks like Morgan Gunnarsson, I want to say, led the team with 4 tackles each. Gunnarsson with a sack in this one. And then it would be Keen Hazelriggs, the senior, with 2 interceptions as they beat Regis Jesuit. Now, on the Regis side of things, they did make a little bit of a comeback in the fourth here, but obviously too little, too late. Interesting enough, Nala Barnes, 4 of 10 for only 19 yards here. No rushing yards. And it would be the junior, Delaney Sitzman, who would get a lot more opportunities here, as she went 19 of 32 for 141 yards, 2 touchdowns to 2 picks. So the 2 touchdowns that she threw were in the fourth quarter, and it was by Sitzman, which I think is a very interesting there. Caitlin Bueller, kind of emerging as their lead receiver for them, the freshman that is, 8 receptions for 80 yards. Catherine Uri, 5 for 30. Paige Combs, 3 for 25. I don't know why they didn't list who caught the 2 touchdowns there, but they did not there, so just keep that in mind. On defense, the freshman Jasmine Lugo led with 7 tackles, 1 sack. Nala Barnes, though, 2 interceptions caught on defense. She also had 2 tackles as well, as Regis Jesuit just falls a little bit short. Now, this does make things a little bit interesting. Does Sitzman get an opportunity next time around if you're Regis Jesuit? We'll just have to see what happens here. I actually believe at the time this episode releases, they would have already played Thunder Ridge, and then they'll play Chatfield later today when this episode releases. But we'll be talking about the Tuesday slate of games on our Week 3 recap, so there you go there. But just definitely something to keep in mind, as Regis makes this one a close one at the end, but Valor takes the first Holy War, sweeping the Holy War in both boys and girls, as the girls win 18-13. And then the last game here from Friday that I haven't recapped yet is Heritage versus Mullen, and Heritage dominates this one 40-14 here. Abby Nichols with one of her best performances, 14 of 21, 227 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground, 7 carries for 40 yards and a touchdown as she went off here. Looks like no Sophia O'Donnell, no stats for her, which I think is a little interesting here. Elena Sheenaberry, though, 7 carries for 27 yards. Joe Taylor with a carry for a touchdown in this one. As far as receiving goes, Jillian Taylor, the sophomore, 3 receptions, 75 yards, and a touchdown as well, so a rushing and receiving one for her. Claire, the sophomore, number 31, 3 receptions for 69. And then Avalon Lux Offerman, 3 for 65. Bella Gibbonine and Alexa Robinson with a touchdown each in this one. As far as defense goes, Ryan Taylor continues to lead as one of the best defensive players in the state with 9 tackles. She also, or I guess she did not get any sacks in this one, but she did have 2 pass deflections. On the secondary side of things, though, Sophia Pratt, the senior, had a pick. Caroline Belair, the sophomore, had 2 interceptions. And then Richards here, the sophomore for them, number 27, Finley Richards, had an interception for them as well, as they just dominate Mullen 40-14 in a very nice win to have to close out this week if you're Heritage. All right, now let's move to the Saturday slate of games here. A lot of games I already recapped actually from Vanguard. The Vanguard school hosted a bunch of teams in Coronado, Colorado Springs Christian, Air Academy, Doherty, Elizabeth, Ellicott, Vanguard, obviously, Vista Ridge, and TCA. So check out that little takeaways section there if you want to hear more about those games. But let's talk about the other games that went on around the state, starting with Horizon versus Mountain Range. Horizon taking care of business here, 33-0 over Mountain Range. Henley Holly's here, the sophomore, with 2 receptions for 37 yards and a touchdown. Jania Harris, the sophomore, 2 for 31 and a touchdown in this one. As far as defense goes, a couple players here tied for their lead tackler in senior Whitmarsh, sophomore Harris, sophomore Gutierrez, and then sophomore Waffley here, each with 3 tackles each. This defense had 5 sacks from Addison French, Whitmarsh, Jania Harris, Gutierrez, and Tatum Gonzalez. And then defensively, in the secondary here, Gutierrez had 2 picks, Waffley had an interception, Holly had an interception, and Anna Gomez with an interception in this one, as Horizon takes care of Mountain Range. Horizon would then play Smoky Hill, who they would beat 13-6. Smoky Hill scoring in the third to break the silence here and take the 6-0 lead, but Horizon with 2 touchdowns in the fourth to close this one out and win 13-6. I don't think these stats are complete, so I'm not going to talk about the offensive stats here. Defensively, though, Whitmarsh led with 5 tackles. Addison French had 2 sacks. Whitmarsh with a sack. Carissa Riley with a sack in this one. Whitmarsh kind of going crazy in this one. An interception as well. Anna Gomez with a pick. Jania Harris with a pick. And the sophomore Gutierrez, that would be Mackenzie Gutierrez, with an interception as Horizon continues to roll on this Saturday. Then moving up here, let's talk about Rock Canyon versus Cherokee Trail. Rock Canyon just absolutely beats them down 50-0 at Legacy Stadium. No stats there as of right now, so let's move on. Then we have Mountain View versus North Glen here, and Mountain View wins a big one, 26-6 over a North Glen team that was pretty hot here. Mason Premer, the senior, 9 for 1,668 yards, 3 touchdowns to 2 picks. Kendall Finley also got in there, 8 of 10 for 70 yards and 2 picks. Not super efficient there, but they ran the ball well. Mia Artis, the senior, 3 for 38. Michaela Macias here, the junior, 4 for 30. Mason Premer at quarterback, 4 for 21. Reese Peterson, 1 for 12 and a touchdown. Kendall Finley, 2 for 5 here. As far as receiving goes, Gwen Marks, the senior for them, 2 receptions, which were 2 touchdowns for 85 yards. Mia, I think it's Maya Artis, the senior, 4 receptions for 29. Violet Hidalgo, the senior, 7 for 29, and Ellie Harper, 1 for 24, and a touchdown in that one. As far as defensive stats go, I don't think these are complete here, but Ellie Roberts, the sophomore, leading with 6 here. Gwen Marks with a sack. Kendall Finley with 2 interceptions as they take care of North Glen. For North Glen here, tried a different quarterback, it looked like, and it would go ahead and be a sophomore, Caitlin Fujinami, who went 5 of 21 for 50 yards and a pick here. She also had 18 rushing yards. Evelyn James, though, the sophomore, 5 receptions for 45, as it looks like they were just short-handed in this one, unfortunately. Carol Martinez Tisserino, the freshman, led with 6 tackles. Madeline Olmos, the sophomore, with 3 sacks. Evelyn James with a sack. And then Sirius, I want to say, Avina, the freshman, had a sack in this one. And then defensively, Fujinami with a pick, James with a pick, Leah James with 2 interceptions in this one. But just couldn't get anything going on offense, as no Sydney Reese listed down, no Ellie Taylor listed down, and that's kind of a tough go if you are North Glen there. So definitely interesting in keeping that in mind moving forward. Now, moving on to some other games here, we have North Glen versus Legacy right after. And North Glen would end up winning 2-0. Still none of their usual quarterbacks. Now Caitlin Fujinami looking like their usual quarterback. She started going 17 of 32, 118 yards and a pick. Also had 36 rushing yards. Evelyn James led with 12 receptions for 84 yards. In this one, on defense, Leah James, the freshman, led with 5 here. Madeline almost with 2 sacks, and then Fujinami with a pick in this one. Couldn't see who got the sack or the safety that is for them. I want to say it had to be who they selected, North Glen selected for player of the game in Jasmine Saraseries of Vina, who is a freshman for them and did have 2 tackles, as that would have been big time for them, or that was big time for them if it was her who got that pull to score the only points for North Glen here. So there you go. Then we had Dakota Ridge play Mountain Range here. Dakota Ridge dominating 30-0. Addie Orr, 2 of 9 for 45 yards, 1 touchdown. Per usual, though, Dakota Ridge ran it. It would be the senior for them, Bronlyn Murawski here, who had 3 carries for 96 yards and 2 touchdowns. Addie Orr with 5 for 46. Natalie Nair, the senior, 4 for 42. Tatum Williams, the junior, 3 for 30. And then Addie Miller, 5 of 9, but also had that rushing touchdown for them. Genevieve Pike, the sophomore, had 1 reception for a touchdown. That went for 15 yards there. On defense, Emery Bowman, the standout sophomore rusher, 4 tackles there. Also had 4 sacks in this game. Genevieve Pike with a sack as well. Grace Klepper with an interception. And then Bronlyn Murawski with an interception in this one, as they just take care of Mountain Range 30-0. Then Legacy would go ahead and play Denver East here. No stats, unfortunately, for this one. I do know Legacy was up 12-6 at half. They would score 13 in the fourth quarter to close this one out, as they beat Denver East 25-12. Following that, we had a big-time matchup between number 1 Mountain View in 4A and then number 3 Dakota Ridge, according to our power rankings from the week before. And Mountain View would go ahead and win 21-0, scoring in the second, third, and fourth to win this one. Here are the stats. Mason Premer, the senior, 18 of 22, almost perfect there. 4 incompletions only in that one. 119 yards, 2 touchdowns. Also had 3 carries for 33 yards and a touchdown. Michaela Macias with 4 carries for 44 yards. As far as receiving goes, my artist here, the senior, 6 for 42 and a touchdown. Gwen Marks, 4 for 32 and a touchdown. Ellie Harper, 2 for 18. On defense, it would be my artist leading with 9 tackles there. Meg Hidalgo with a sack, their lone sack in this one, as they beat Dakota Ridge. For Dakota Ridge, they struggled. I mean, they couldn't score in this one here. No turnovers, I want to say. Now that I'm like looking through, I don't think there were any turnovers, but just couldn't get anything going. Addie Orr, 5 of 13, 77 yards. Addie Miller, 2 of 4 for 11 yards here. As far as rushing goes, it was Bronlyn Murawski, 6 for 23, which is not great. Then the next rusher was Gianna Fabrizio, the sophomore, who only went 4 for 5 there. As far as receiving goes, Kate Barbick, 4 receptions for 61 yards. Genevieve Pike, 3 for 27, not doing too much there. On defense, it was Darian Lewis, the junior, who led with 7 tackles. Emery Bowman right behind her with 4. Bowman with 2 sacks in this one, but no picks for Dakota Ridge, as they just could not get going, as Mountain View was throwing the ball here. And, I mean, they only scored 3 times, which isn't that bad here, but Dakota Ridge just couldn't score as well, which ended up being their downfall, as they lose 21-0, and Mountain View continues to solidify themselves. Moving on here, we have Eagle Crest playing Legend, and Legend, they take care of them 20-6, and they put in stats, which is interesting here. But Matty Smolin, the junior at quarterback, 15 of 25, 125 yards, 2 touchdowns. Aislinn Corella went 6 of 9 for 63 yards through 1 pick. Ava Gavi, 1 completion out of 2 attempts, and one of those was a pick there. As far as rushing goes, Smolin with 5 carries for 50 yards, Ava Gavi 2 carries for 17 and a touchdown there. For receiving yards here, it was Riley Stuber, I want to say the junior, which, by the way, if I'm butchering that, I apologize. She was their lead receiver, 4 receptions, 41 yards, and a touchdown. Ava Gavi, 2 for 25 and a touchdown. Then you have Aislinn Corella, 2 for 24. Maylee Willem, 2 for 24. And then Ashley Halberg, 4 for 20. And then on defense here, Jocelyn Huntsman led with 7 tackles here. Victoria Curdy with a sack, the sophomore that is, and Zoe Matherly, the junior, with an interception, as they cooked against Eagle Crest and beat them 20-6. Then we have Chaparral versus Arapahoe here. Previously, before this week, Chaparral ranked at number 6 here, and then Arapahoe at 10. Arapahoe, though, losing to Columbine, while Chap won on Wednesday, and this one wasn't close. Chap beat them 32-0 here, just going up big. Let's start with Chap's stats here. Zoe Fink, the freshman, 18 of 23, 178 yards, 3 touchdowns. Did throw 2 picks, though, but rushed for 3 for 12. Sophia O'Donnell on the ground kind of killed them. 8 carries for 145 yards and 2 touchdowns there, as she was the lead rusher. Sydney Matthews, the lead receiver, 5 for 49. Jamie Baum, 3 for 46 and a touchdown. And then Nicole Cook, 5 for 44 and 2 touchdowns in this one for Chap. On defense, it would go ahead and be sophomore Molly McWilliams, who had 9 tackles. Sophie Matthews with 7 right behind her. McWilliams with 4 sacks. Senior number 51, that would be Haley Joe Roberts with a sack here. And then no interceptions for them, as they do beat Arapahoe. For Arapahoe, some struggles continue here on offense, it seems. Whitney Folger, 22 of 39, 162 yards, no touchdowns, but 4 interceptions. Did have 8 carries for 20 yards in this one, though, as their lead rusher. At receiver, though, it was Alexa LaDuff that led here with 10 receptions for 104 yards. Taylor Bradley, the sophomore, 5 for 22. Lizzie Padilla, the junior, only 3 for 14 in this one. And then on defense, it would go ahead and be the senior for them, Hannah Cadwallader. Hannah Cadwallader, I think is how you say it, who had 9 pulls. Izzy Usagani, the freshman, 8 pulls right behind her. Whitney Folger had a sack in this one. Taylor Bradley had a pick. Alexa LaDuff had a pick. And they had 2 pass deflections in this one. And then, yeah, I think that was pretty much it. Arapahoe just couldn't quite get any scoring opportunities here. I believe they did get into the red zone multiple times, but couldn't score there. Or I should say they couldn't finish in the red zone is what I should say. Still scoring opportunities, just none that were taken advantage of, unfortunately, as Chaparral continues their undefeated season here. And then last but not least, we had Smoky Hill. I believe they were playing a JV team, or a team that was a JV team, I want to say. They're not listed here, but they beat them 18-6. I have no idea who that is, but that'll wrap up these games and the week 2 recap of all the ones that we were not able to go to. So there you go there. All right, now let's go ahead and briefly talk about Playmaker of the Week. As always, a lot of different players that we could look at and potentially give this thing to. But I have at least narrowed it down to a couple different players here. I have 3 different players is what I really should say there. Number 1 here is Cherry Creek's Molly Durigi. She plays wide receiver and DB for them, and she's been on a tear against Chatfield and Ralston Valley. Made big plays. She either scored a touchdown or got an interception in either of those games, and that was definitely big time there. Also, Mountain View's quarterback Mason Premer, she played a great couple of games on Saturday, including a pretty big-time win over Dakota Ridge there, where she played a pretty clean game in a week where Mountain View actually maintains their undefeated record. So definitely someone that we had to keep in mind. And then the last candidate we had in consideration was Kate Osborne of TCA against Vanguard. 3 interceptions in the first quarter, and also played a great game against Vista Ridge this last week to go ahead and continue TCA's winning streak and undefeated record at the moment as well. So a couple different players to look at here. But at the end of the day, I think we're going to have to go with Cherry Creek's Molly Durigi. She played some great football on both sides of the ball here. And so there you go there. She's your Week 2 2024 Colorado Girls High School Flag Football Playmaker of the Week. Now let's keep this thing moving and go ahead and talk about power rankings here. Let's start with 5A power rankings. In case you do not know how these power rankings work, myself and Gino, we do the rankings. We each individually rank teams from 1 through 10 in 5A. If a team is ranked at 1, they get 10 points. 2, 9 points, 3, 8 points, so on and so on. And then I add up the points from our 2 rankings and rank the teams based on who got the most points following that. And that is our PMC rankings right there. That's how we average it out, at least for 5A. And 4A, I'll talk about it when we get to that segment there. But let's go ahead and talk about what the rankings were just a week ago here, just so that, you know, you could keep in mind. But just outside was Heritage, North Glen, Grandview. At 10 was Arapahoe, 9 Valor Christian, 8 Legend, 7 Regis Jesuit, 6 Chaparral, 5 Cherry Creek. Tied for 3rd was Arvada West and Chatfield, 2 Ralston Valley, and at number 1 was Mountain Vista. Now, going into this next week here, which, I mean, we consider games from August 27th to September 2nd, so any games that happen on September 3rd, we're going to consider those for the following week. Just wanted to throw that out there as well. But going into our actual rankings, once more, North Glen and Columbine were just outside of our top 10. 2 teams, myself and Gino, mulled over kind of a lot here. North Glen playing some good football, despite being on their 3rd quarterback, it looks like. In Columbine, I want to say currently undefeated, or sorry, 1 loss to Legend here, I want to say. And so they're just outside for us at this moment. But let's go ahead and get into it. At number 10 is Regis Jesuit, down a couple of spots here. This is what Gino had to say about Regis. He said, their offense continues to worry me. They are a fringe top 10 team until they can prove me otherwise. And yeah, I agree. I think they have a lot of talent there defensively. They're going to challenge some teams, but offensively, they've shown some inconsistency. They're might be maybe a little bit of a quarterback controversy, as one played better than the other in the Holy War there, and that's definitely something to keep in mind here going into this next week. So Regis Jesuit holding on into the top 10, but just barely at this point. Now at number 9 is now Heritage, who moves up from being unranked. They were just outside last week here, but Heritage had a pretty good week here. This is what Gino had to say. He said Abby Nichols runs one of the most explosive offenses in the state. Could move up to the top 10, or sorry, top 7 pretty soon here. And yeah, I'd have to agree. Heritage got a couple big wins this last week, including one over Regis Jesuit, who they're now over at the moment, and a big time blowout win over Mullen, which I don't think was ever going to be super close, but still taking care of business. That is definitely a green flag if you are Heritage. And you know, they have one of the best dual threats in the entire state, doing it both passing and running here. You could expect them to continue to potentially rise, and honestly, they do deserve to be in this top 10 here. They were just outside last week. They are that type of caliber team. So there you go there. Now moving on here, tied at 7, we have Legend and Valor Christian here. Let's talk about it. Gino actually has a Legend right here at 8, I want to say. And so this is what he had to say about them. He said Legend continues to beat teams with their amazing defense, but only 20 points on the board against Eagle Crest is concerning though, which honestly is something I agree with there. You know, Eagle Crest is not exactly the greatest defense out there, and so you kind of expected Legend to score a little bit more against them, but they did it. And so while it is a red flag, they still continue to win. We know their defense is really good. Offensively, we're hoping to see some things change just a little bit there. So we'll see what happens here, but still some of the same concerns. Now, Gino, he has Valor Christian rated right here at 7. For me, these teams were flipped. I had Legend ahead of Valor, but he said this about Valor. One of the only 3 undefeated teams left. They have a huge opportunity to move into the top 5 if they can beat Arvada West and Ralston Valley next week. Agreed with that. Those are 2 really tough games here. But, this was a squad that was played pretty close by Regis Jesuit. That feels like maybe a little bit of a red flag. They did go up by 2 scores pretty early on here, and then allowed Regis to score both times in the fourth quarter. So definitely something to keep an eye on, but a win's a win. They are undefeated. We'll see what happens this next week here. Hopefully we'll be getting some eyes on them moving forward. For me, I had Legend and Valor flipped here. I had Legend ahead of Valor. I really like Legend's defense. I think they're better than Valor's. Offensively, both teams are in pretty similar spots, in my opinion, and so we'll just have to see what happens. From here on out, me and Gino's rankings are basically the same, though. At 6, we have Chatfield. This is what Gino had to say about them. He said Chatfield's defense is championship caliber, but that offensive scheme could be the only thing from stopping that from becoming a reality. Now, I don't know if I necessarily agree with the scheme part, but I do think they could simplify some things and, make it work. Make it work against squads and get that offense going a little bit more. I feel like I did see them in a tough spot against Cherry Creek. Hopefully they shake that off and get better. We'll see what happens. Chatfield does move down a couple of spots, though, after losing to Creek. Just throwing that out there. Now, at 5 is Chaparral. This is what Gino had to say. Chat finally enters my top 5 after shutting out Arapahoe. And yeah, they have played very well. They're one of the 3 teams in this state in 5A that are undefeated. It looks like they got a lot of young pieces here. We'll continue to see if they can keep it up, but Chap is definitely a threat moving forward and a team that I think it's safe to say we could view as contenders in this one. Now, at 4 is Ralston Valley, who moves down a couple of spots. Gino says this about Ralston. Ralston will be fine, but a loss like that to Creek definitely puts a damper on their smoking hot start to the season. And yes, I gotta agree. Even in that loss against Creek, the defense was balling. They were playing great, forced a lot of turnovers. They gave the offense plenty of opportunities, but it just felt like a bad day for Ralston Valley. I know I said that about Chatfield against Creek, but it legit felt like a bad day. They were giving them so many opportunities off of turnovers, and Ralston either returned the turnover or they just couldn't make the most out of it. So we'll see if they can respond moving forward here, as, the schedule doesn't get easier. It's pretty simple here. If they win, they continue to move up, potentially. If they lose, they could see a drop. So we'll see what happens. Now, at 3 is Arvada West. Previously, they were tied with Chatfield at 3, but Chatfield does move down. Arvada West stays right here, though. Gino says this about Arvada West. Could make an argument for a top 2 ranking if they can beat Valor and Ralston Valley on Saturday. I agree with that. Their only loss is to Mountain Vista, which is the same loss that our second team suffered as well here in our rankings. So this definitely could be closer, but if they get 2 wins next week here against top 5 opponents, that'll go a long way in them moving up in our eyes. But these 3 teams are very talented. I think we all view them as some of our main contenders here, big time contenders moving forward. Now, at 2 is now Cherry Creek as they move up a couple of spots. They had a great week here. This is what Gino had to say about them. How about them Bruins? They move up to 2 after dominating wins over 2 top 10 teams in Ralston Valley and Cherry Creek. Both of those games, and this is me noting that, by the way, but both of those games were 2-score wins as well over those two. And so Cherry Creek deserves this. They got a lot of playmakers on offense, a lot of ways to beat you. On defense, they are very disciplined. They'll show you a couple different things over there, and they got some great athletes who can hold it down. And so Cherry Creek, as expected, this season is going to be very good. Now, at number 1 still is Mountain Vista, one of the only undefeated teams left here in the state and in 5A. But Gino has this to say, one of the only 3 undefeated teams left, plus they've beaten both other teams in the top 3. Yeah, in Cherry Creek and Arvada West, they've beat them. Mountain Vista's schedule does get a little bit easier moving forward here, as they have ran the gauntlet pretty early on in the season, and they look good. So at this point, I mean, unless Mountain Vista just gets upset, they should pretty much hold on to this number 1 spot for a while here, but you never know. For now, though, your Week 2 power rankings go like this. Just out is North Glen and Columbine. At 10 is Regis Jesuit. 9, Heritage. Tied for 7 is Legend and Valor Christian. 6 is Chatfield. 5 is Chaparral. 4, Ralston Valley. 3, Arvada West. 2, Cherry Creek. And at number 1 for a second straight week is Mountain Vista. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about the 4A power rankings. Like I explained before, our system, our way of doing these rankings are pretty much the same here. But this time, myself, Gino, and Cody all rank teams 1 through 10. If a team is ranked at 10, we give them, at 1, we give them 10 points. 2 is 8 points, 3, 7, and so on and so on. A team that gets 10th is, they get 1 point there. And then I go ahead and add up all the points. The team with the most points is near the top for our PMC rankings. But we also have individual rankings that we did as well, which I will be referring to throughout this whole thing. But in case you forgot, last week here in 4A, we ranked a couple teams, albeit we felt like that this would change, and it's still in flux, but we still did our best here. Just that was Vanguard. At 10 was Gateway, 9 Ponderosa, 8 Evergreen, 7 Vista Ridge, 6 Mullen, 5 TCA, 4 Green Mountain, 3 Dakota Ridge, 2 Pomona, and at number 1 was Mountain View. Now, just out for this week here is Denver West here, who did get a vote from Cody. So let me go ahead and read this one out. He said this: I love the close win over Rangeview, and then also taking care of business against Kennedy. I'm definitely intrigued by the West versus South matchup coming up this weekend. So there you go there, as he puts Denver West in 9th in his personal rankings there. Now, moving on, let's go ahead and go to number 10 here, and we got Manual. Gino put Manual at 10 as well. I put them at 9, but this is what Gino had to say. I don't know much about who Manual has been beating, but they're 2-0, so I'll give them the 10th spot. I'm basically in that same spot here. They got 2 nice wins against Bruce, Randolph, and Lincoln. Hopefully we'll see them continue to roll, but it's hard to ignore starting out 2-0. So there you go, Manual at 10. Now at 9 is Air Academy. I have them at 10. Cody has them at 10. Gino has them at 8. This is what Gino had to say. The Cadets have like 5 plays in their offensive playbook, but I still think they have a lot of good athletes with a great defense. Cody said this: the Cadets show that they are here to play and left their opening weekend undefeated. Agreed with both. Got to see Air Academy live here. I think they have some really good athletes where they can challenge some teams defensively. Offensively, though, not super confident. They run a lot of handoffs. In flag football, that'll work against worse teams. Against better teams, that pretty much goes right out the window. So we'll see how Air Academy responds as they continue to grow and get better. But for now, in our PMC rankings, they sit at 9. So there you go. Now moving on here to number 8 is Denver South. By the way, the last 3 teams up from being unranked here, including Denver South. I have them at 8. Cody has them at 8. And then Gino has them at 9. This is what Gino had to say about them. That win over George Washington has Denver South entering my top 10. So there you go. That was a pretty close win there. Cody said this: tough opening loss, but showed they could win big on the 27th. So there you go there. Don't have too much more to argue. They beat some quality opponents, so I'm happy with it, right? Moving on here, we have Evergreen, who moves up one spot. They did not play this last week, but teams have moved up and down around them. Evergreen pretty much moves up a spot because other teams lost and moved down. So there you go, but still in our top 10. Now at 6 is Vista Ridge, who is rising. Cody had this to say about them. Good win against Vanguard, but not as good as showing again in the rematch against TCA. Yeah, that's true. Gino had this to say, outside of the loss of TCA, Vista Ridge has been looking pretty solid this season, so there you go. I feel pretty good about Vista Ridge. I think they have a lot of good athletes. Against TCA, the offense did not execute as well as they could have. I think they could have done better. Now, I don't know if they beat them, but they would have been in a better spot for sure. Defensively, they got a lot of athletes over there, but I think the experience does need a little bit of work, as you do have some green players, and it shows when there are breakdowns here and there. But altogether, though, Vista Ridge is still very talented in my opinion. So, boom, that's that. Moving on to our top 5 here, we have Green Mountain, who stays in our top 5. This is what Gino had to say about them. An experienced squad that I think could have the firepower to be a top team in 4A. Cody said this, only dropping because TCA surged through an undefeated weekend. And yeah, pretty much same here. I had TCA right behind Green Mountain, but they had a better week than them, so they move up here. Green Mountain's still a very solid squad. Now up to 4 is Dakota Ridge, who did lose, and they do move down a spot. Cody said this, Dakota Ridge was making moves left and right before getting shut out by Mountain View on the road. That's a good squad, so I'll keep my faith in these athletes here in the top 3. The true test will come against Pomona here in 3 games, which I definitely have to agree with there. Gino had this to say about Dakota Ridge. He said that loss to Mountain View hurt, but I trust Dakota Ridge to stay as a top team for the rest of the season. Same here. Mountain View, they're a very good team. They've had a lot more experience with each other. Dakota Ridge, I feel like, are just kind of starting out here, so we'll see how they develop, but I don't think there's any doubt that Dakota Ridge has some very serious talent over there. So there you go. Now, at 3 is Pomona, who moves down a couple spots. I have them at 3. Cody has them at 4. Gino has them at 2. This is what Cody had to say about Pomona. He said, I have to drop them because at some point you have to get into the end zone. I know the competition is the strongest schedule out of the gate, but to not have scored once worries me. Gino had this to say about Pomona. Pomona has had a horrifying schedule to start the season, but I expect them to cruise through their 4A opponents for the most part. Yeah, I gotta agree. It's hard to rank Pomona because they haven't won a game either. Not really. But they are a talented squad. They've just been playing like all their opponents have been top 5 opponents in 5A. And so hopefully things begin to settle down and they could win some games. But if they continue to lose, it's going to be hard to justify keeping them even in this top 10. Just throwing that out there. So there you go there. Moving on at number 2, who has risen a couple spots, is now TCA. I have them at 2. Cody has them at 2. Gino has them at 3. Cody said this, still undefeated, but I am not sure of the quality of opponent yet. So, as Mountain View, that is. Gino have this to say about TCA. TCA absolutely slaughtered their opponents Saturday to put themselves in my top 3. Yeah, I might be biased, but I really like TCA's team. I think they got a good quarterback. They got a lot of other great athletes around them. That number 33, their freshman, is extremely talented for them. That 23, Osborne, I want to say, made some big-time plays. Now, while the opponents may not have been as good as some other ones, I still think they are extremely talented, and they could push for state, which I think makes things very interesting. So there you go there. Now at number 1 still is Mountain View. We all have them at number 1. Gino said this, easily the top dogs in 4A, especially after that big win over Dakota Ridge. Cody had this to say about them. He said one of the last undefeateds remaining, and beating a good Dakota Ridge squad stamps this spot. Yeah, I mean, that was a big time win there to keep their top spot here. That's going to be important as the playoffs turn up and move on here and the regular season goes on. But for now, Mountain View's in a good spot as they are on fire, playing some really good football. We'll see if they can maintain it moving forward here. But I would say the future is very bright as they look dominant. So there you go there. Those are our rankings. Once more, just outside is Denver West. At 10 is Manual, 9 Air Academy, 8 Denver South, 7 Evergreen, 6 Vista Ridge, 5 Green Mountain, 4 Dakota Ridge, 3 Pomona, 2 TCA, and at number 1 for your 4A 2025 Girls Flag Football Recap or Power Rankings Recap is Mountain View. Alright, once more, thank you so much for supporting us. We really appreciate it. If you want to know when more content's going to drop, just follow us at our social media at Playmakers Corner. But until then, we will catch you next week.